Morning, we'll start the meeting. I think we're now recording and broadcast or live streaming. Just recording. It's not been live streamed, don't worry, just recorded for future reference. So welcome to Corporate Services and Economic Growth Review Scrutiny Committee on the 13th of March. So the first thing on the agenda is apologies for absence. No official apologies, okay. The minutes of the previous meeting on the 13th of February have been circulated. We're happy with the record. Agreed. Right. Please sign those in advance, so thank you very much. And next is disclosure of members' interests. Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, just I am on the board of Advanced Northumberland, but I would like a dispensation just to stay and listen. Obviously, I won't partake if that's okay.
And that's absolutely fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, that's Thompson.
At the last meeting, I declared an interest on it in the Commonwealth and I left the room, but you didn't bring me back in.
Oh, sorry about that. My apologies.
I get the message.
Yeah. We might have finished meeting it early as well. Duly noted, and we'll make sure we bring you back in next time.
Thank you.
Okay, forward, item 4 panel cabinet decisions.
Yeah, there are two items on the forward plan. The very first one, the best report, that's going to come on the tomorrow, and also the governance of council companies, which is going to come on the 11th of April, will come to this committee on the 17th of April. I don't know if you've seen the email that was sent round. This meeting was scheduled to be the 3rd of April because of Good Friday. It's the Monday forward a week, but obviously the reports will be ready in time, so we've had to invite them to move to the 17th. That's the reason for that. So we've got those two reports, and of course we've got Jan's quarterly updates.
Okay. Right. So next is the main part of the agenda. It's Advanced Northumberland. So thank you for the big team for Advanced that have come today to give us a presentation about what's currently happening with Advanced and allow us to ask you some searching questions at the conclusion. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, committee, for inviting us back. We have a short presentation today. Last year, when we came and presented to you, we had quite a long presentation and took you through some of the background of what we're doing and what all of our teams have been into. We're rather hoping that can be taken as read today, so we've concentrated on what's happened since then, so what's happened in the last year. But of course, if anybody needs a reminder or would like to ask questions about what we do, please do shout up. I think it's probably worthwhile if I just quickly introduce some of my colleagues on the right here. First, we have Paul Errington, who took over as director of our Ascent Homes team, following the departure of Duncan Bowman, who we met last year. Then we've got Andrew Mowbray, who heads up our project management team, and John Anderson, who's our head of finance, so is very familiar with all of the numbers. So without further ado, there we go. Our developments team, I'm going to pass on to Andrew, really just to give you a little bit of a highlight of what we've been up to in the past sort of 12 months.
Great. Yeah, morning everyone. There's a couple of slides here, just a bit of background, which I'll quickly move through. This first slide really just shows some of the organisations that we work with and for in the process of delivering projects across the county. As you can see, it covers Active Northumberland, Port of Blythe, and numerous departments within the council and obviously within Advanced itself. Next slide. Again, just to cover the type of the work that we undertake. It varies project to project, but typically we offer a whole range of project and development management services, right from project management and design management, cost and quality control, and we do that across a whole range of sectors, so anything from marine, commercial, retail and regeneration. So just into a few of the current highlights. So first of all, leisure. We have just handed over the 4th leisure centre that Advance have done, which is Morpeth. So that's now with Active Northumberland. They're just carrying out the finishing touches to that building, ready for it to open next month. It looks fantastic. Earlier than that, we handed over New Biggin Leisure Centre refurbishment, which was handed over in the summer. And then previous to that, I think Berwick's just celebrated its first birthday. And on all of those projects, we carried out the full range of services, right from supporting Active, writing the brief, through appointing the design teams, managing the design teams, through planning and procurement, and then ultimately the construction and quality control of those buildings. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the public seeing Morpeth in April, and I'm confident there'll be some awards coming the way of that building in the next few years, because it's a really fantastic building. Moving on, so just a bit of a highlight on Blythe. So we've been closely involved with what has now become the Energising Blythe programme right from the start. So we supported the regeneration team to submit the successful funding bid. We've worked with them to really provide development advice throughout that. And that's now led to us managing the two flagship projects. Energy Central Learning Hub on the Port of Blythe. That project has gone right through design, planning approved, contractor waiting in the wings to start, subject to cabinet approval next month. There's some demolitions and enabling works being undertaken at the moment. And that work, as I said, will start in the next couple of months and then be ready for the teaching September next year. And the other key project is the Culture Hub and Marketplace redevelopment in the town centre. And that's a 3-screen cinema and other community facilities such as a performance studio, multi-use space and cafe. And again, on that project, we've provided the full range of services, right from supporting the brief, managing the design team. Planning was submitted last month. And we've also supported the procurement of a cinema operator, which will be announced subject to approval as well very soon. And that project, we're close to appointing a main contractor with a view to starting work at the end of the summer. Quite a lot of public consultation that we've been involved in, obviously supporting the business case developments, and look forward to getting those projects coming out of the ground over the next 12 months or so. Just final slide from me, just a little bit of a look at Berwick. So we are currently managing the redevelopment of the Maltings Maltings Theatre and Cinema project. It's really in two parts, this one. So the Berwick Barracks, where we've been working to provide a pop-up cinema, which will be developed in one of the buildings at the barracks. Planning is due to be determined very soon, and a contractor will be appointed in the next month or so to get that pop-up facility ready towards the end of this year. And in parallel to that, we've been working with the Maltings Trust to run a design competition, to put a design team in place to get that design. So that'll take a good 12 months or so to get that design ready to start on site. And by which time the pop-up cinema will be ready and established, and then works can start, as I said, on the redevelopment of that site. Really important site, quite a complex set of stakeholders, obviously two very sensitive sites that need to be really carefully designed alongside the public, alongside the likes of English Heritage and Historic England and other stakeholders. But really fantastic opportunity to transform that site and obviously increase tourist visits and spend in the town of Berwick. So that's the end of my slides. I'll hand it back to Robin to move on, and questions at the end, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Andrew. Right, and we'll move on to a centre, which is our market owns house building company. Paul joined us at the back end of this summer. And there's even in this short time been instrumental in really driving the business forward. So, Paul, do you want to?
Yeah. At the moment, housing market's a credible, difficult time for housing. I think everyone's No one needs me to tell you that. It's quite apparent in the news. We're seeing a combination of house prices potentially coming down, but also inflation fundamentally affecting our build cost. I've been very, very fortunate in the Northeast. A lot of the headlines are more or less UK based. So the Northeast and Northumberland hasn't seen it as bad as what it's made in the press. When you start digging into it, it's nowhere near as bad as what it's out there. So that's just about it, is the first and foremost. What we do within Ascent is we have various different projects, all looking to achieve different end goals. Some schemes are purely a regeneration scheme that we are looking to regenerate areas. And then we have other schemes that are profitable, where we have to maximise the most amount of profit to it. Generally, our bread and butter is our 2, 3, 4 bedroom homes, affordable homes, but not under the definition of the Section 106 affordable. We do provide it as affordable homes. This year, across our average selling price across all of our developments is £189,000. That's something that's quite good. I see a lot of your PLC house builders are trying to brag how they're lifting their house prices, whereas for ourselves, we're trying to keep our house prices at a very, very steady, affordable level. And that's something that is seeing success for our region. We are at the start of our journey towards net zero. I think the best terminology to put for that. So we are looking at schemes that we are looking to go for off-gas solutions, where we can try and support people. It's fuel costs and energy costs are very, very much in the marketplace at the moment. So it's looking to see where we can help people on that journey. So since Ascent was formed, we've built 417 homes within Northumberland, 117 in the last 12 months, albeit that'll be to the end of this month. And we've delivered 107 affordable homes, which are true Section 106 affordable homes since our formation. Because we deliver in Northumberland, we look to invest in, we look to employ in Northumberland, invest back in Northumberland. Just over £16 million spent with SMEs locally from our who we deliver with. Current schemes are Alnwick, Blythe, Choppington, Ellington and Wooler. And we've got planned starts later in this year, further phases at Ellington and Choppington, which has just commenced. And then we have new sites in Belgium, Berwick, New Biggin by the Sea, and another one in Hadston, subject to final discussions with Homes England. A little bit away from what I was saying, but it's always a nice one to show. We have Alburn Manor at Alnwick at the side of Alnwick Gardens. Very, very much different from our standard product, but it's a site that's the company's had for some considerable time, so we're trying to make the best out of that, get out of it, and hopefully make a profit. It's a scheme of 14 new builds and 2 conversions. It's been incredibly successful. We just took another reservation over the weekend. We're now 50% sold, and the first houses are not due to be completed till July this year. So it is a very, very successful development. We also have our rural schemes as well, which this is our Wooler development. It's a total of 72 units on phase 1, and we are just about to start on phase 2, which is a further 12 units. Out of that, there was 11 affordable homes went direct to NCC, and that we built, they manage, delivered through it. It is a lovely development. It's a very, very nice development, rural. It's seen a lot of interest, and it's been very, very welcomed. Just some more images, yes. So them images from our show homes, our Willow Farm development in Choppington. So the show homes open just before Christmas, just to give an idea of what they look like from internal to external.
Thank you, Paul. I tend to say very much about our sort of underlying estate management. As you remember from last year, it may not be as headline grabbing as creating new buildings, but it is the financial core of Advanced Northumberland. It allows us to do housing and regeneration for other projects, it provides homes for almost 1,200 families, of course, within the county, and homes for a lot of businesses. So very important. Current sort of highlights for the year. Well, continuing to provide high quality estate management. We like to think that our residential homes, some of them are not in the wealthiest of areas, but we provide a good quality, affordable product there. They are private rented, they're not social rented homes. So we are a private landlord, so we're not regulated like a housing association is. The portfolio overall has performed very well. We've started bringing back a number of units we were holding as void in Ashington, and the lettings there have been very, very positive. That has a good financial effect on the company, but also is very good for the local area. There's nothing worse than having empty properties on the street for anti-social behaviour. We're continuing to see recovery post-pandemic, particularly in the retail aspects of our portfolio. The largest one being, of course, Manor Walks in Westmoreland in the town centre of Cramlington, where, as all landlords of retail property, suffered arrears being racked up during the pandemic as shops and businesses closed. We're pleased to say that that position has not quite back to normal, but we've been very successful in bringing back a lot of the arrears. So we're in financially a much stronger position. And although, like all retail property, it has suffered over recent years due to the pandemic and, of course, the rise of internet shopping, it still is a successful, popular centre, and the footfall we're getting there, as a proportion of pre-pandemic levels, is still one of the best in the country. So it still is a really good asset for the county. Moving on, again, a critical part of our work is around economic growth and investments. Several aspects to this. The economic growth part, you are hopefully all aware of the work the team does in supporting businesses across the county, with obviously quite a focus on rural business support. That work has continued throughout this year, many businesses being helped. And the other side of it is our investment work, bringing on inward investors. And particular highlight, there's a list of them there, is the work with JDR Cables, who have taken over the Northumberland Energy Park Phase 1 site in Camas. And the picture there is the groundbreaking event. And Jeff Watson was our chair at the time, and you'll see him there with one of the spade holders in the picture on the top right. And that, of course, will be providing hundreds of new, highly skilled jobs to the area, and a lot of inward investment as the building starts to come out of the ground and the kit installed by JDR. So a real success story, a lot of work to get to that point. This is some of the figures behind the business support team, and I think it speaks for itself. 2,900 businesses have been supported by the team, which I think is an excellent record. I know their work is appreciated by both colleagues in the council here, but also the businesses themselves. They have a good reputation and continue to work not just on demand with business approaching us, but we have what we call our strategic account management function, which is where we look across the county and identify the businesses which are the large employers, those which are strategically important to the future of the county. And we invest time and effort going out to see those, understand what their barriers to growth and success may be, and help them signpost them towards where we can help them to continue to grow within the county. So a good way of unlocking growth and hopefully boosting the economy of the future. Last but not least, at the meeting we had last year, we spent a bit of time talking about the finances of Advanced Northumberland, and at the time that was relating to the financial year ended in March 2021. We've now got some late draft figures. I'll say late in terms of they're still draft, but that we don't anticipate any significant change. However, I have to caveat that we have not got an audit signature on the dotted line as of yet, although I'm rather hopeful that will be happening imminently. But I will hand across to John, our Head of Finance, just to run you through the highlights.
Yeah, so obviously the table on the right there, 2020 to 2021, a big red number at the bottom, the loss of 17.1 million. obviously we don't want losses. That has been driven by a negative revaluation to our assets. That period is COVID. It's the third and final year of COVID. So we were expecting to take a negative revaluation, and it was give or take 17 million. So the underlying business for that year is actually still positive. It's the revaluation that makes it look negative. That's very much an accounting exercise. So unless we sell our assets, we'll never realise that 17 million. But the positive news for 21-22, there's been another revaluation. Actually, the loss we made in 21 is being rebounded in 22. If you add the two together, actually, we're positive overall. So, like Robin said, they're still subject to audit. I'm hoping to have them done by the end of this month. But the underlying business is strong. Like Robin said, we've got really good assets. We've got a good estate management team, and we support a lot of other things as well. Some of them are not strictly profits generating, but we are still turning profit at company level. So I want to focus on the balance sheet there as well. Our assets were 316 million last year. They've gone up to 336 this year. We're actually at the end of FY23. I think we're going to be pretty much in line with that again this year. So we're going through another revaluation process again. We are much stronger. Obviously, we've been through a very turbulent time. The pandemic didn't help, but actually we'll come out the other side of that, and we are as strong now as what we were before then as well. So really positive. And when you add the 2 years together, unfortunately, the revaluation makes it look bad in 1 year. It looked really positive in the second year.
Thanks, John. I think it's worthwhile me mentioning as well, when we were in front of this committee last year, we did talk about some work that was needed to look at the whole financial model and how the company is financed and how it works financially with the council. I'm pleased to say that that piece of work is in progress. We appointed a firm of accountants to have a look at how we work and to come up with some suggestions of how we can work more efficiently and effectively, financially speaking, and make changes that work for the company, put it on maybe a more sustainable footing financially going forwards, but also work for the council. So that's a joint piece of work I'm undertaking with Jan Lewis, and I'm hopeful that will be concluded within the next couple of months. So, Chair, that's hopefully a bit of a whistle-stop tour. We're very pleased to take any questions you have.
Thank you very much for that. So, members of the committee, do you have any questions? Now's your opportunity. They're here in front of us. We can ask them questions. Isabella?
Yep, thanks, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Just a quick one on the new builds, the rural, excuse me, rural, especially sort of the Wooler area. Is there any positives being given to locals on this? Well, because obviously it's the locals who have the demand for the area.
At the moment, we took the affordables that were dealt with by NCC to deal with the affordable rents. We don't, on this scheme, we don't have any requirements for live local. It's an open sales for anyone to take the opportunity to purchase it. Within other schemes, we are looking to have discount market value sales that is set within a certain geographical radius. Then it opens up over a period. They haven't been reserved, but there's no requirements on the Wooler for a local space policy.
Because that is what, sorry, Chair, if I can. I mean, that's the main driving point, isn't it, really, to the locals can't afford a lot of the new housing, so yeah, want to keep them working in that area. Check it out. Just second question on the Blythe scheme. I haven't seen the detailed plans. I'm trying to kind of work off the picture exactly where that's situated in the town square.
Yeah, so the marketplace development, if you're familiar with it, there's a toilet block on the end of the marketplace. Yeah. We are sat about 3 meters in front of that, facing the Keel Road shopping centre. So we went back onto the toilet block, and then it sort of sits quite nicely in the middle of the marketplace. So we safeguard a large area that can still be used for events and for marketplace, but actually try and break the area up a bit. One of the big pieces of feedback was just a big vast wasteland of a space, other than 2 or 3 times a year. So we'll break it up and make it a much more appealing space for the public, hopefully.
Again, that's great because it is a massive area.
Yeah.
If you're coming that way, will you be blocking the shops? Which are, I think, mainly individual, sort of independent shops, sort of on the back of the square. Will that be blocking them off?
No, they'll still, so effectively the way the building's being positioned, there's still space to have an access road in front of that terrace.
Right.
And actually, there's the opportunity also for market stalls to be positioned down there, facing on to those retail units. So hopefully we'll create quite a nice sort of tree-lined space to walk between those two, and hopefully enhance those retail units over time when the development opens.
That's great, just because the last thing you want to do is to bring a fantastic unit like this in, but then block off.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was key to the brief that.
Thanks, David.
And then it's Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. Chair, I've got three questions. Shall I just ask them all together?
Yeah.
Simply just on the culture hub in Blythe, you mentioned that there was a cinema operator sort of just about to hopefully sign up. And will they be operating the whole building, or are they only operating the cinema part of it? And if that's so, who's operating the rest?
Yeah, so it's the whole building with the exception of a small area which is earmarked for creative play. So that's subject to a separate procurement exercise, but it is pretty much the whole building, which is what was preferable. So there's that one responsibility for the building.
Very definite, thank you. Difference. Just curious. During the presentation, we were talking about housing and the sort of trying to make the houses net zero, or what's the difference in build price? I mean, I know it's a sort of probably an impossible question to answer, but between a house that meets the minimum building standards and a house that is truly environmentally friendly, what's the sort of percentage difference in build cost?
Well, it is a difficult one to answer because there are various standards of sort of low carbon or zero net carbon houses, and the difficulty we face is that there isn't necessarily a very big difference in the market price, but there isn't a cost to deliver that. So it comes to margins. I'll ask Paul to pick me up on this, but I think our latest estimates are probably in the region of £15,000 per house additional cost, but it does depend on the size of house, obviously, and its location and things. So I wouldn't quote that figure as an exact.
So over the lifetime of a house, £15,000 will save a lot of money for the people that buy it.
Yes.
Of bills.
Yes, unfortunately, it does not add £15,000 to the value people are prepared to pay for the house up front. Maybe it should, but that's the market, unfortunately.
Thank you. And then final question was, do you have much of a sort of land bank for future developments?
We have a good pipeline at the moment on the housing side, but we're not like one of the major house builders that may have 10 or 15 years land bank built up.
Yeah.
So our land bank is, well, it's not really a land bank, it's more of a pipeline.
Yeah.
That we're now in a better place than we have been for quite a few years in terms of being able to get a critical mass of schemes going. But we're always on the lookout then for filling the pipeline in the next stages when these ones finish. So not really a land bank.
No, we generally tend to work on a 5-year cycle. That we're always trying to look ahead from a 5-year basis. So that's the basis of what we currently have on site that we are delivering out. We then look at our other sites that we have as upcomings that we're in discussions with landowners. Then we do look at options to purchase where we do try and put the minimum payment down for secure for the long term.
And presumably you work quite closely with the Council Estates Department to identify opportunities that the council may hold.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Liz?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions. The first one was with the slide about the barracks, and just when you say up cinema, so it gives this image of it popping up and then disappearing. So what's the sustainability of that, and how will it affect the building?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, pop-ups on reflection, is probably a bit of a misleading term. So, but no, effectively, I don't know how familiar you are with that site, but there's a building called the Mob Store,
Yeah.
Which was used by English Heritage for the storage of various artifacts, which they've now emptied. So effectively, the project is to convert that into a cinema. And yes, there will be some elements that are removed after the 2-year expected duration of the pop-up cinema. But the plan longer term is for then that to become the new archive store for the county. So actually, a lot of the investment that we make will then still be used by that next use. Does that answer?
The cinema often transfers back to the Berwick Theatre complex.
Yeah.
And the beauty is that it's a dedicated cinema as opposed to a theatre and a cinema in the same room.
Yeah.
So we've got a cinema and a theatre as opposed to both of them using the same facility. So we'll actually get better income. It's just really to allow the Maltons to have a longevity and a footprint in the town through that build.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's just important that we all sort of are aware of what's actually happening there. But having mentioned cinema, my thoughts go back to Ashington and the cinema operator. What is the process with that at the minute? How far has that gone?
Well, we're working very closely with Janice and colleagues at various sort of potential schemes around Ashington. Obviously, the moving forward is subject to funding bids, but we're working in close collaboration with the council.
Still incorporates a cinema in that area.
As of today, that's certainly the plan hasn't changed. No.
We're still working hard to get cinema.
Yeah.
Thanks. Got another question just on the slides. The slide that was the Woolach rural schemes, and it says 11 affordable units have gone straight direct to NCC. Are they for rent?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just explain? I mean, in this area, in the southeast, most of our affordable rents have gone to housing, social housing firms.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Why have these gone straight to NCC, and will that be the route that we're taking going forward?
We also, in some of the other developments, have passed on the affordable homes to, say, Benicia.
Yeah.
And we have a very good working relationship with them too. It is a site-by-site discussion. If the planning conditions say we have to provide a number of affordable houses, we'll then have a discussion with NCC and Benicia, and it will be who's best placed to take those forward as affordables in the area where the site is. We don't have a fixed exit route. No.
It depends where people are operating. If they have stock in that area, it makes sense for them to take it just for the ongoing maintenance rather than having to send someone 50 miles to do a bit of maintenance.
And just a final question. I know we're doing, we've got a new chair of the board, etc., but how far along the route are we getting of their board members?
That's a very good question. The board decided at the back end of 2022 that the board will be reconstituted. That is a work in progress at the moment. We have advertised to bring on a number of independent non-executive directors who can bring, skills where we need that advice and constructive challenge to move the company forward. Pleased to say we had over 200 applications that came in. We've whittled those down to a short list. We conducted some first interviews last week. We've got further interviews this week, after which we may have a second round of interviews, but then we'd look to appoint as soon as possible thereafter. I think technically, in keeping everything governance-wise straight, our board will recommend appointments to NCC as shareholder, who will then make that final call.
Thank you.
Martin? Thank you, Chair. Good questions. Robin, you're surprised where we're with the Badminton development.
Well, I'll let Andrew pick up on that, but as you're aware, I presume you are referring to some of the recent challenges regarding
Challenges, well.
regarding the failure of the main contractor.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure everyone's aware that the Toland Construction, who were building the first phase of that redevelopment, went into administration. I think it was 4 weeks ago today, actually. So in the time that's passed, obviously we've been doing all the work required to make the site safe, put in place all the relevant insurances and security, and take over all of that. And then we've moved on to negotiating with the supply chain of Toland, who were building effectively, because Toland are effectively a management contractor with a set of subcontractors working under them. So we're in a position now where we have agreed a price with all of those subcontractors to then restart works under the management of Advanced London Developments. So that will get that scheme underway. I'm still confident that we'll get restarted by the end of this month. And then it's going to be around about 12 weeks of work to finish the first phase. That allows us to hand over that unit to Greggs to do their fit out. So with a fair wind by July, we should see the Greggs unit underway. As soon as we get the project back on site, we will then look to phase 2, because the first phase is the Greggs unit. The next phase is the further 3 retail units and the fit out of the 6 apartments. What we'll do for that section is go and get a new main contractor to build that. So we'll use the time that phase 1 is being completed to put in place a contractor to then take over as soon as we finish phase 1. And we decided that was the best and quickest way to get the project back and to get Greggs in as soon as possible.
You know what you've got built now?
Yes.
Is that just the Greggs unit going in there?
It's the Greggs unit and the apartments above.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about the size of the retail units. So
Yeah.
what we're going to look at is another 4 retail units about that size.
Another 3. So there's 4 in total.
Another 3.
Yeah, that's
4 in
correct.
total. So that's going to go right away down that.
It goes right where there's the set of steps that takes you down from the high level. The retail unit goes right up to those steps, and then those steps will then lead on to a retail lane, which will run right through and connect to the new car park opposite the locals.
And how much interest do you have in them? I mean, it's been well advertised.
In the other 3,
I personally like to see small units, you see.
so the other three units, there has been some interest warming up since Greggs was announced as having signed up their lease. So there's initial inquiries that the investments team are dealing with. None of them have been converted into heads of terms yet, but there is some positive discussion. And I think once we see that Greggs unit up and operating, I'm sure that invest will increase further.
Right, well, while I'm talking to you, Andrew.
Yeah.
About the blind redevelopment.
Yeah.
And I've seen the community consultation, and it's been all over. I mean, you couldn't help it. We've got consultation fatigue in Bedland. They must be sick. They don't have it blind, but at least they've got a funding pot to go on. Are you telling us that the 3-screen cinema was the top of the wish list on that community consultation?
It was certainly a very strong request from the public. There was, as you'd expect, a variety of different suggestions, but that was one of the favoured options, and it's proved popular in all of the consultations we've done. And there has been a lot of consultation, but I think for the right reasons, and actually we continue to get some quite decent attendance levels at the consultation, which hopefully shows that the public are keen to continue to get involved.
It just seems a bit strange when we've got, you can see nationally cinema chains are struggling, but not me.
The chains are struggling, but actually independent small cinema is actually booming. If you look at the what's happening around the country, yes, your Cineworlds, which have got mountains of debt, are struggling, but independent cinema is actually, there's an increasing number of small 3 to 4 screen cinemas opening around the country. So our intel and the work that's being done suggests that it's the right move. And in fact, we've secured an operator already, which will be made public very soon. And I think that hopefully backs up the decision that was taken.
And it's borne out by the thing as well, where we've got an independent operator, the Maltons Trust.
Good.
They can't get enough, they haven't got enough time in the day to kind of get to meet the demand, so that's why we're getting a dedicated cinema. So I think it is the difference between a small, independent, more community-led approach to the big multiples. Cinema post-COVID seems to have really gathered a bit of momentum.
So that's all, what's it, we're French from one. Question for Paul, Willow Farm, certainly one of the biggest developments you've got. I'm just wondering what the price pressures are on there, because I'm reading stuff and you mentioned it. The big developers are offering discounts on new units now to try and get money in. They're building their hell, obviously, to try and get in before any major price fall. We've seen interest rates go up on that. What's the sales rate on there?
We sold everything apart from 2 bungalows on phase 1. We have now released phase 2 and phase 3. So we're forward selling. So it is going very well. We're not offering discounts or significant discounts the way some of the nationals are offering. We will offer an option towards, cash towards options, so your kitchen upgrades, your flooring, but we're not having to heavily discount any of our sites.
Good, it would seem to suggest you got your pricing right in the first place.
The pricing's right, but also what we offer for our money. So our houses, as I would always say, they're very good quality, but the fittings that we put in, we put a lot more fittings into it. The rooms are larger, the properties are larger than what our competitors offer on a like-for-like basis. So we have took people who have been looking to reserve on another development, the other side of Bedlington, that moved over to us because we are providing more fittings. We provide them within our base price, whereas other people will have to go and spend £10,000–15,000 in their house to get the same level as what we offer.
Right, last question for you is, that road that's just going in opposite, that's going to do with you, is it?
Chopton.
It's Chopton?
No. All we've done is a little bit of some very, very minor road widening at the entrance to our sites to allow us safe access.
I was pretty sure all the developments on one side of the road, there's a road on there. It was just a question. Robin, if I may, couple of questions. Personally, pre-COVID, we had a better business quality going on, and I'd like to talk about restarting that.
Yeah, happy to have that conversation.
Just a little room once every quarter. But it was generating a bit of interest for businesses, which are going to need to go into these units. You're talking about changes in the board, changes in financial arrangements, etc. Do you think these will lead to you paying dividend back to the shareholder?
Potentially, yes, is the answer. It's a work in progress at the moment. As you may be aware, when Advance was set up, it inherited the finance model which was initially put in place for Arch, and it was very, very heavily debt finance. So large levels of debt, sort of big interest payments, which might have been a good idea at the time, but the frailties of that model maybe have been brought home, particularly through the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is to work very closely with Jan to make sure we can maybe have a look at restructuring those loans so that the council is better off, and in the longer term, and the company is better off as well. So getting into a position whereby money comes back as a dividend rather than as interest is maybe one of those options, yes. But I don't want to prejudge what our accounting advisors are going to come back with.
I'm just, you can appreciate you sitting in a position where we say 300 million going to a company, and apart from the interest repayments, where else going back? There is the regeneration aspect. There is, all of that going on, at least because of that. But on a strictly financial terms, it's a good deal for ratings.
Well, the company generates its income to cover its costs from its portfolio. We don't get subsidised by the council taxpayer. In addition to paying about £14 million a year in interest to the council, We do undertake a number of activities which I think John referred to as which cost us money but don't bring any income. For instance, we contribute a significant sum every year to the economic development team. We get some external grants in, some EU money at the moment, North of Tyne, for instance, but we also put a big chunk of match funding into that. We've done deals which are great for the county, but don't necessarily make a financial return to the company. I don't want to go into specifics because of commercial confidentiality, but there are transactions which have resulted in a loss for the company, but the right thing to do for Northumberland. So I would maybe not surprisingly not say that we don't provide value to the council, far from that. What I would say is I don't think the way our accounts are structured lets us tell that story properly.
Exactly.
And that's one of the outcomes we want from this review is to make sure that the numbers on the page match the story of what we're actually delivering.
Thank you.
That's Paul.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. And some of the questions have been asked. What I wanted to ask have been asked by others. So I'll restrict to one question. What I don't understand is this draft financial position, page 31.
Yeah.
In 2021, you had an operating profit, the positive, that leads to a negative profit before tax.
Yes.
On the other hand, this year, last year, sorry, you have an operating profit, albeit in the positive, but it's less, but it leads to a larger profit.
Yes.
Tax. I don't understand this magic. Is it that you're paying loans or something? So I'm curious. Can you please explain in layman's terms what these words mean and how these numbers pop up?
Thankfully, there's a very easy explanation for that particular question, and that's to do with the value of our properties. We get the properties revalued every year, and that's done independently by an external qualified valuer. And in the year ended March 21, in the wake of COVID, of course, the valuers were very nervous and did quite a big write-down of our property values, particularly around the retail side of the portfolio. Came into 2022 and a lot of that write-down was reversed. So we have to write that into the accounts. So it's a very big number that's moving out and then back in again. So it isn't really to do with the day-to-day business. Day-to-day business has been steady and it's been pretty much the same. But it's this annual revaluation creates potentially some very, very big movements
in the profit.
In the profit.
All right. Okay. So what is this operating profit? So can you explain that one? What is this operating profit?
Yeah, the operating profit line is derived by taking all our revenues from house sales, from rent or other sources of income, less basically our costs of getting to that point.
Right.
So it's pointed to the actual sort of viability of the underlying business.
And then you take this operating profit, add in this property value, the value of the properties you have, and then you derive this profit before tax.
Yes,
is that it? Okay, so that is the.
And there will be other things, non-operating costs, right, like interest and depreciation. And
yes,
that sort of things
as well. Of course, of course. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alex.
Thanks. I think I still have a question that hasn't been asked. I think. First of all, I said it last year, I'll say it again. I'm a massive fan of Advance. I have been for many, many years. I think I only know one person bigger fan than me. At least out there.
I ended up with a job.
So, it was mentioned to Martin there before. Martin hit the nail on the head. There's so many good things that happen with Advance that the public never ever get to hear about.
It's true.
Sadly, they do get to hear about the bad ones. You know for a fact with the council there's always a vote. So here's a vote. We had consultation in 2015, 2017, and we identified that the community benefit would look family-friendly pub on the former Tesco site. It never happened. But I'll tell you where there was one. Live. And last week, hidden amongst all the Gary Lineker stories and everything else, was the closure of the most successful restaurant in Blyth. And I'm afraid Advanced, along with the Port of Blyth and others, got it square between the eyes, the blame. Now, I heard Robin say before about how you work with the small companies, etc., etc. So it's Caboose, in case anyone doesn't know where I'm referring to. Very successful. To be honest, punching above its weight, many people would say in Blyth, but punching above its weight successfully. I would love to have seen that in Bedlington. There's a message in case anybody wants to report it. Can you tell me, if you can, what measures you took to an existing company to help him? He's fought his way through the pandemic, he's fought his way through everything, even fought his way through 4 editions of Come Down With Me. I mean, the man deserved to win before them. So seriously though, you know, it's a loss to Bedlington, and I think this is an opportunity for you to actually give your side of the story. I remember when the Port of Training Services first started at the Harbour Commissioner, it was a hut. Now we're turning into something that will make massive benefits, not just for Blyth, but for Northumberland, but to the loss of a restaurant.
Yeah, thank you, councillor. Yeah, it's obviously a situation which we're very aware. We've been engaging with the restaurant over a period of several weeks, months. Andrew has been directly and personally involved in that negotiation or discussion, or what you like to describe it as. So I'll let Andrew maybe give a potted summary. Obviously, we don't want to reach any commercials or indeed anything around the restaurant itself. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, as you've alluded to. I mean, first thing to say is that they're a tenant of the Port of Blyth.
Yeah.
And, you know, throughout the design and development of that project, we've been kept informed about the development that is taking place on that site. Unfortunately, that construction site is right outside our front door, and there's no way of us getting around that. We've tried, you know, there's been various discussions around what we can do to try and mitigate that impact. But he's taken the decision after 4 weeks of construction that he doesn't want to continue with his business. From the discussions we've had with him and the press releases that he's put out, there's been a struggle for a number of months now due to all the various other factors in the economy. And I think, you know, all I'll really say at this stage is that some of the claims that are made around the impact that the construction site have had have been grossly exaggerated. And I think, you know, the things that we've done on a practical basis is provided a temporary car park. We've provided signage to be displayed on the fences around to alert his customers that he's still open for business. We've removed, at his request, a large sort of timber structure that he had outside of his premises to create more space for parking and circulation. And we've met with him, with the local MP, with members of the council, with members of the port on 2 occasions now to look to see what other things we could do to support him. So I think every effort has been made throughout, but I think really this is the impact of the construction project has not been the cause of his demise. It would be all I can really say at this stage. The port are looking at, in the fullness of time, that unit will come back into use, obviously, and then I think it will be a fantastic site to sit alongside the new college and skills building when it opens. So
Thanks, Jay. Just very, very small supplementary, which I've got with me waffling on. It doesn't help when the communications team, I believe it would be, on the Northumberland website, still refers after 3.5 years, this building is a boathouse. That would be a smack in the mouth to anyone who worked or had all the debts that Caboosel had. But communication from the county that came up on the website, even there this morning, refers to the building as the boathouse, which of course was the former and the original name.
Is that on the Advanced Northumberland?
No county. I just wanted to make that clear. If anybody wanted to pick it up, I would certainly
I've
look
written
at
it down
that.
now, it's on.
Yeah, it's in the business.
You can.
Yeah, I'll chase that.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I appreciate that.
Councillor Oliver?
Just a quick point going back to Paul's questions about the sort of revaluation movements, and could we sort of next year, could we just have a line with that? Because we had the same discussion last year and this year. We could have a line that sort of shows the revaluation movement and maybe another line that shows the sort of net cash flow movement in the business, and that would probably give us all a better understanding and make for a shorter discussion as well.
I certainly support Nick. It would be useful for people who coming from non-accounting background, you know, how these figures from positive to negative, negative to positive, so it would be very useful.
I think Malcolm had another question.
Just to pick up on Alex's final point there, to Jonas, the company also talks about budget and weekly market. But also, a bit I read, it's a minor stroke, you can whip it on the back step of the house or something. I mean, totally 20, 30 years out of date. So can you have a look at that as well, please?
And a big 15 picture.
Liz?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think it was Robin, it might not have been, but correct me if I'm wrong, that said in the presentation that there was nothing worse than having empty properties on a street. And I quite agree with that. And the things we've heard about the regeneration schemes in Blythe, in Asherton, although it's taken a long, long time and elsewhere are great. But when you get beyond those town-sized places into the smaller villages, what can we do there? And I'm specifically relating to my own ward where we've had one shop which was closed and is still standing empty 2 years down the line. So it puts a whole blight on the village itself. What are the plans to help small places like this rather than town centres?
I mean, you're right to raise that because it is a very, very difficult issue. You know, it's not just Northumberland, it's a feature of, I suppose, economic changes that have impacted very, very widely. Being honest, I don't think Advance on its own can fix everything everywhere. We are a tool of the council and work very closely hand in hand with them. So we're here to reflect the sort of policy priorities a little bit of the council. If there is a specific case where we think we could do something economically, where it's coming in and building, obviously we can't magic up money, we've got to be able to make that money, then we'd be very pleased to have a look at you know, specific sort of projects. But it does become difficult if it's isolated units. You know, for instance, we have a house building team here, which are very, very good. But because they're set up as a medium-sized sort of house builder, we've got to look at the sites which are big enough to make it worth our while looking at. We're not suited for going in and building a single house in a gap year or two houses. So I don't have a magic answer for you, I'm afraid. But if there are specifics you'd like us to have a look at,
So
very happy to.
maybe worth some discussions.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right, do you have any more questions? Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much to the people from Advance for coming in and answering so well all the questions that have been raised, and keep up the good work. And we look forward to seeing you with a further update at this time next year.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, so to move on to the agenda, work programme.
Well, I'm going to cover the work programme for planning. So just to re-emphasise the next meeting is 17th.
Okay,
Any other business? No?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Simply want to bring up an urgent business that we should maybe be scrutinising the work that's been done to try and foresee the impact of inflation in this year's budget. And you didn't do that, and we haven't had anything back. Well, I've had a peer, that's what the committee in, as a whole has not sat and scrutinised any decisions which have been made, which may have other effects. We may want to question them on certain people taking decisions to try and balance this year's budget. So nobody's scrutinising.
Well,
But you did agree.
we had the budget meeting and we had the scrutiny meeting of the budget.
That was last, that's the next budget. What I'm
Well,
talking about is.
As in the budget 12 months ago.
So now, this,
The budget that's just been passed.
the budget 12 months ago doesn't have a great deal of relevance to what's been going on. That's what I'm saying.
Well, a budget is a budget. It's a plan for the year ahead.
Yes, but in our budgets, we're always build in millions of pounds worth needed to balance it.
I'm trying to understand. So we have a budget which was passed by full council last month.
Yeah.
You're wanting us to scrutinise that?
No, I'm not to scrutinise this. What's happening now?
As in for the next
In
year's
last
budget?
4 months. When inflation became a problem, people were making decisions that this council were doing things that nobody scrutinised, and as far as I can see, it hasn't gone to any scrutiny committee. They're making decisions that this council does things to try and, with the best will in the world, manage the inflationary aspects that's hitting the current year's budget, and nobody's scrutinising them. That's what I'm saying.
Well, maybe Jan can give us an answer or thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Chair, the quarterly reports are brought to Cabinet, which details how the current year's budget is being managed. And in fact, the quarterly report to the end of December is due to go to Cabinet tomorrow. So it's open to this committee if you want to look at those issues in more detail. You know, to scrutinise those reports. On the forward plan, I think the final outturned report for this current financial year, i.e. the year ending 31st of March 23, will be coming to Cabinet around May, June time. So that would be an opportunity if you want to look at the whole year retrospectively, or you could look at the December report at your April meeting if you are so inclined. But in the meantime, I'm very happy, you know, to provide some further information to the committee about the measures that are being taken to manage the current year pressures, but they are detailed in those quarterly reports. So it wouldn't be anything which isn't already in the public domain.
I'd certainly like the quarterly reports to come to this committee.
Okay,
That was my proposal.
in that case, can we put it on the agenda for it? Yeah, okay, we'll put that on the agenda for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, any other urgent,
Just on a quick one, and I probably missed it, but it did come to this committee before when I think the full council, and I don't know if it's been taken on. The NCC were going to set up a lottery.
yes, it's an operation, the lottery, it's been going for years now, but
Have we any feedback? Could we have feedback on
well, how it's
how
performed.
it's performing? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Can we request a report on the Northumberland lottery? It's been a couple of years now, it's probably good, probably something good that we can actually see how it's performed. Yeah, can we request that report? Yeah, okay, well, I don't know how long it'll take to write it, but we'll request it.
That'll be a lottery.
Okay, any other suggestions? Or anything? If anything comes to you for work that, you know, you haven't thought of this moment, feel free to email me and we can put it on the agenda if it's possible. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I'll close the meeting.